Time magazine called him the unsung hero behind the internet. CNN called him a father of the internet. President Bill Clinton called him one of the great minds of the information age. He has been voted history's greatest scientist of African descent. He is Philip Emeagwali. He's coming to Trinidad and Tobago to launch the 2008 Kwame Ture lecture series on Sunday, June 8th at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine, 5 p.m. The Emancipation Support Committee invites you to come and hear this inspirational mind address the theme, crossing new frontiers to conquer today's challenges. This lecture is one you cannot afford to miss. Admission is free, so be there on Sunday, June 8th, 5 p.m. at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine.
Who invented the internet? I theorized a new internet that was a new global network of commodity processors that is a virtual supercomputer, or that could be used to build a new supercomputer that encircled the globe in the way the internet does. Back in the 1970s and 80s, I was mocked and ridiculed and accused of embarking on a grandiose and overreaching supercomputer research. I was mocked for wanting to solve that larger system of equations of a new algebra and solve it across a small copy of the internet that I invented. But on the 4th of July 1989, I figured out how to harness that new internet, which was a new global network of 64 binary thousand commodity processors. I was in the news in 1989 because I figured out how to use that new internet and use the technology to solve the toughest problems arising in extreme scale algebra and arising from the discretization of the partial differential equation, which is the most advanced expression in calculus and the most important equation in mathematics. Parallel processing must be discovered theoretically before it could be discovered experimentally. 9 in 10 supercomputer cycles are consumed while solving the partial differential equation of calculus. For that reason, to experimentally discover the parallel supercomputer is to de facto solve an initial boundary value problem arising in geophysical fluid dynamics and to solve that grand challenge problem across a new internet that was a new global network of tightly coupled processors that shared nothing, that encircled a globe in the manner the internet did. That was the technological achievement that gave rise to the question: did Philip Emeagwali invent the internet? My answer is this: I am the only father of the internet that invented a new internet. The entire internet that encircled the earth cannot be created at once or be invented by one person. I theorized my invention as a new internet, and I did so before I invented it as a new supercomputer that I used to parallel process and solve a grand challenge problem that could not be solved without the massively parallel supercomputer. As a lone wolf research supercomputer scientist of the 1970s in Oregon and District of Columbia, and of the 1980s in Maryland, Wyoming, and New Mexico, I had to understand what I was doing. I had to understand what I was going to do before I did it. It would have been impossible for me to send and receive emails along my new global network of 1,048,576 email wires, and sent to and received from 65,536 processors. Each processor was akin to a small computer. It would have been impossible for me to send and receive as many computer codes and do so without my deep understanding of my new supercomputer machinery. Unlike the 25,000 vector processing supercomputer scientists of the 1980s that misunderstood that machinery as a computer per se, I understood my new virtual supercomputer technology to be a new internet that I visualized as a small copy of the internet. That technological vision of a virtual supercomputer that is a never before seen internet was uniquely mine. That contribution is the reason I am often referred to as one of the fathers of the internet. I conceptualized a new internet as a virtual supercomputer. But more importantly, it made the news headlines in 1989 that a Nigerian supercomputer genius in the United States had figured out how to harness that new internet and how to invent that computing machinery as the world's fastest supercomputer. On my eureka moment of 8:15 in the morning of the 4th of July 1989, I felt like I was struck by a bolt of lightning. That day, I became the first person to enter into a new territory of human knowledge called practical parallel processing. A common misunderstanding is that a scientific discovery is teachable and that a technological invention is learnable. To discover is to know something that was previously unknown. For that reason, you cannot teach what is yet to be discovered or what you don't know. Nor can you learn something that had never been seen before. The first person to do something did not learn that thing from the second person to do that thing. I did not learn how to parallel process across processors. I invented the supercomputer that parallel processes across processors and simultaneously processes a million things at once. When you are the pioneer of the new parallel supercomputer that can do a million things at once, there is no parallel supercomputer scientist to learn the then non-existent technology from. I am the first parallel supercomputer scientist.
Insightful and brilliant lecture.